Now joining us live is FICCI President and the top boss of HUL, Sanjiv Mehta. Good afternoon, Mr. Mehta. This is Nayantara. We were talking, what, 12 hours ago when you actually said you hope the union budget is going to loosen the purse strings by keeping a check on the fiscal deficit as well. It seems that's exactly what has happened, with an eye on increasing infrastructure spend, of course, the 7 engines of growth, and rural spend. Let's begin with the initial comment of yours.
Thank you, Nayantara. And, the headline is, I'm very pleased with the budget. There is consistency. Yeah, the tax rates or no new taxes have been introduced, which is absolutely the right thing. It's a bold budget. It does not fall into the new classical trap. So, we talked about yesterday that till private consumption picks up, till private CAPEX picks up, the government spending will have to play a very big part. And absolutely delighted to look at a 35% increase in government CAPEX to 7.5 lakh crores, which is very impressive. And if you were to look at it from a perspective of the total spend together with what would be given to the states, we're talking about 10 lakh crores, or nearly 4% of the GDP. If we have to go on the path of sustained growth rates, and we have to look after the poor, create more jobs, then it has to be it's not just about fiscal deficit, but where is the money being spent? And the money being spent on infrastructure, on the right areas, is going to give the multiplier effect. So I'm very pleased with that also. The third important bit is that the government has started focusing on the sunrise industries. Yeah, and if you were to just look at the number of series of steps which they are taking to digitize the economy, it's absolutely the right thing, whether joining all the portals for MSMEs or spending a good amount of money to get MSMEs rated, which will facilitate credit for them. Absolutely, again, the right thing. Then you look at from a lens of 5G. There are very clear pronouncements that the 5G auctions would be held this year. Then we are also talking about the green, significant steps being taken, whether it is the green bond, whether it is a PLI for solar panels. This is again the steps in the right direction. So
Mr.
I'm
Mehta,
absolutely pleased.
Apologies. Mr. Mehta, apologies for that very rude interjection. But, just so that we stay with what we were initially discussing as well. And of course, we've talked about the good things in the budget with a lot of our guests. But a point that you had also raised yesterday, that there will be pressure on the wallet, simply because, what is happening in rural India, the degrowth, as well as, of course, we need to increase consumption. But the pressure on the wallet, the inflation management suggestions that we were talking about yesterday, whether it was, duty cuts, etc., that hasn't come in. So what will be the impact of that on rural India, on consumption, and of course the middle class?
That's right. There are some areas which we would have liked the budget to address. One is increase the outlay on Manrega. I understand it is 75,000 crores, but I need to look at the fine print. The second is we were also expecting perhaps the Manrega kind of scheme tailor-made for urban poor. We haven't seen that. The other bit is it could have been more aggressive on spending on healthcare and education. And I have yet to see the precise fine numbers, but I didn't see any major pronouncements in that arena. And yes, there was no visibility to any duty cuts to reduce the impact of inflation. But a lot will now depend on the Reserve Bank. Yeah, what policy Reserve Bank adopts, because there is a very clear mandate on the Reserve Bank to control inflation between 2% and 6%. And like we discussed yesterday, it would entail very tightrope walking. We don't need to stifle growth, and we don't need to in any way impact the liquidity in the economy, but still contain inflation as much as possible.
So, Mr. Mehta, let's see what happens on Feb 9. That's when we'll have the outcome, right, as far as the RBI Monetary Policy Committee's decision goes for interest rates. Final comments from you. You've, of course, talked about all the good things in the budget, which will have a multiplier impact as well. For consumption, a bit of a disappointment?
There could have been some direct intervention on consumption. But we must understand that when the government spends this money on infrastructure capex, and I hope it is front loaded. If it is front loaded, then within the fiscal year, we will start to see the multiplier effect. And that I would hope would start to impact consumption and demand.